The terrible tale of Surjit Kaur is a powerful illustration of an honor killing that had consequences that extended from Punjab, India to the United Kingdom. Surjit was born on July 17, 1971, in Coventry, England. He was raised in a traditional home in the Foleshill district and comes from a Sikh family. Her parents planned for her to marry Sukhdev Singh Athwal, a man 10 years her senior, from a traditional West London family in 1987 when she was 16 years old. Despite her hesitation, Surjit, who had always been vivacious and joyful, found herself pushed into this marriage. When Surjit got married, her life took a terrible turn. The Athwal family was authoritarian and domineering, especially Bakon Kaur Athwal, her mother-in-law. Surjit was not handled like a daughter-in-law, but rather as a servant. She had countless tasks to complete every day, and she was severely punished for any errors or disagreements. She was frequently mistreated by her husband Sukhdev, and even though she showed her family her wounds, she was urged to put up with the pain in the hopes that she would eventually win over her in-laws. In the Athwal household, women's life was miserable. When Hardev Singh Athwal, the younger brother of Sukhdev, married Surjit Kaur in 1989, Surjit soon realized she was in the same predicament as Surjit. Even while they were pregnant, both women's lives were dominated by domestic service, and they were treated like inferiors. Not only did Bakon Kaur's daughters-in-law have to submit to her autocratic control, but she also insisted that her grandkids call her mom instead of grandma. Despite the family's respectable and seemingly devout exterior, fear and control were the norm in their home. Over time, Surjit's circumstances deteriorated, but in the early 1990s, she was given a glimpse of hope when she started working as a customs agent at London Heathrow Airport. She gained some independence from her work and had the opportunity to meet new people, who encouraged her to adopt a more contemporary lifestyle, which included dressing in Western attire and applying Western cosmetics. Her mother-in-law and husband, however, were even more hostile as a result of her newfound independence. Sukhdev became more and more suspicious of Surjit's adultery. His worries were increased when Surjit briefly absconded with their 3-year-old daughter, Pawan, in 1994. She went back, but her marriage was never the same. When Surjit gave birth to a second child in 1997, a son, Sukhdev accused Surjit of having an affair and refused to recognize the child as his own. With the family now shunning Surjit, this accusation was a turning point in his life. In 1998, desperate for independence, she requested a divorce from Sukhdev, but both he and Bakon Kaur turned her down, viewing Surjit as a danger to the family's dignity. The Athwal family, unable to manage her any longer, called a private conference and determined that in order to repair their reputation, Surjit had to go. The idea was initiated after the family matriarch, Bakon Kaur, suggested that Surjit be slain in India. When Surjit's sister-in-law Surjit Kaur overheard this chat, she was appalled by the plot. Surjit wanted to warn Surjit, but she was afraid of what might happen if her in-laws found out. Surjit tried to save his friend by contacting Crime Stoppers under false pretenses and sending a letter to the police explaining the family's itinerary and offering details about their impending vacation to India. Unfortunately, neither of the authorities took heed of her concerns. Without realizing it, Surjit's trip to India on December 3, 1998, with her mother-in-law would ultimately determine her destiny. Surjit once went to 2 weddings in Punjab with Bakon Kaur, but her days of freedom and contentment were fleeting. Bakon Kaur set up her brother Darshan Singh to execute the murder on December 11, 1998. After drugging and strangling Surjit, Darshan Singh and an accomplice dumped her body in the Ravi River. Her remains were never located. On December 18, Bakon Kaur came back to London by herself and informed the family that Surjit had made the decision to remain in India. Bakon Kaur made up a lie to cover for Surjit when his parents questioned him, saying that Surjit had left with another man. Sukhdev backed up this falsehood by saying she had a phone conversation with Surjit and that she was no longer concerned about her kids. Surjit's brother, Jagdish Singh, reported her missing to the Metropolitan Police on December 21, 1998, although Surjit's family knew she would never desert her kids. At first, the Surjit disappearance inquiry moved slowly and produced little results. It appeared as though the police were hesitant to investigate the issue with the necessary zeal, potentially considering the anonymous warnings to be a hoax. The Athwal family went about their everyday lives in the meantime, despite the growing suspicion that surrounded them. Just 2 months after Surjit's death, Sukhdev made the unsettling attempt to collect on her £100,000 life insurance policy, which raised even more red flags. Following years of terror and quiet, Surjit Kaur she broke away from the Athwal family in 2004. After moving in with her father, she told the police everything that had happened before Surjit was killed, with his support. This prompted Detective Chief Inspector Clive Driscoll to launch a new investigation. In 2005, following years of tenacity, Bakun Kaur and Sukhdev Singh were taken into custody on charges of murderous conspiracy by British police who had travelled to India to gather evidence. The experiment ran for 3 months, starting in April 2007. In her fearless testimony against her in-laws, Surjit disclosed the entire scope of her family's scheme to have Surjit killed. The court heard how Surjit was killed in cold blood after being tricked into travelling to India to attend weddings. Bakun Kaur and Sukhdev Singh were found guilty in August 2007 of planning Surjit Kaur Athwal's murder. At 70 years of age, Bakun Kaur became one of the oldest women in British history to be given a life sentence for the crime of murder. Sukhdev received a life sentence with a minimum of 27 years in jail. Bakun Kaur's minimum sentence was eventually lowered to 15 years, though, because of her advanced age and failing health. In 2022, she was freed on bail. Although some justice was done, the matter is not yet over. The person who killed Surjit in India, Darshan Singh, was never caught, and Surjit's body was never discovered. The terrible case of Surjit Kaur Athwal brings to light the pervasive problem of honour killings, in which women face punishment or even death for disobeying the rigid morality that their families enforce. After the trial, Surjit got divorced from Hardev Singh and wrote a book called Shamed, The Honour Killing That Shocked Britain, in which she described the atrocities that both she and Surjit had to go through while living with the Athwal family. After Sukhdev's arrest, Surjit's 2 children, who were left motherless due to her murder, were given over to social services. Surjit's narrative serves as a sobering reminder of the continuous fight for women's autonomy and rights in societies where a person's honor and reputation are more important than their life. Her story shocked India and Britain and brought attention to the terrible practice of honor killings, in which defenseless people are killed in the name of custom and familial pride. Surjit Kaur Athwal's legacy remains despite the passing of decades, serving as a monument to the global need for justice, equality, and the protection of vulnerable women. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Thank you. If you're fascinated by true crime stories that reveal the darkest corners of human nature, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more chilling cases, in-depth analysis, and the real stories behind the headlines.